Good evening, everyone. It's me, Heidi. Welcome to Heidi's Corner. Tonight's topic is LGBT plus rights in Romania, and with me tonight is a channel friend and a dear friend, Arthur Weber. Welcome.
Thank you, Haiti. Good evening, everyone who's watching from all corners of the earth. And thank you for joining us for today's discussion about LGBT plus rights in Romania.
Excellent. Now, before we went on, we talked about starting off with the Ceausescu era of Romania, and as well as the LGBT plus rights during that era. What can you tell us, Arthur, from that era?
So after Ceausescu's rise to power in 1968, there was LGBT individuals were not recognized as a minority that should enjoy the same rights as heterosexual people, and even homosexuality was criminalized. In 1968, they added the infamous Article 200.
What did that entail?
Well, the Article 200 said that sexual relations between persons of the same sex should be punished with imprisonment between 1 and 5 years. And the act stipulated in paragraph 1, committed against a minor, against a person unable to defend himself or to express his free will or by coercion, so non-consensual sex, shall be punished with imprisonment from 2 to 7 years. And if that sexual act, we're talking about homosexual acts, resulted in serious injury of physical integrity or health, the penalty is imprisonment from 3 to 10 years. And if it results in death or suicide of the victim, the penalty is between 7 and 15 years. And inciting or encouraging a person to practice homosexual intercourse shall be punished with imprisonment from 1 to 5 years. So homosexuality was criminalized during the Ceausescu regime.
Okay, so was this legislation passed by Ceausescu and the Communist Party?
Yes, in 1968, because in 1957. So before 1957, there was an article that talked about homosexuality as provoking public scandal. So homosexuality was not illegal de jure, but it was illegal de facto.
Yeah, right. Okay. So they could basically, prior to 1968, the gays could be penalized as per some other legislation. Would that be correct?
Correct. And before actually starting in 1937, because we should give this information made clear, because our viewers should understand how this came to be.
Exactly.
Because in 1937, totalitarian fascist regimes actually influenced this anti-gay movement. For example, our viewers know well that gay people were discriminated against under Hitler's regime.
Yeah.
And they were also...
And many others.
Yeah.
So was these fascist rules, discriminating against and penalizing homosexuality? Did that have an effect when it comes to the rise of the Ceausescu regime in Romania?
Well, Ceausescu's regime and communism per se was a rival to fascism and Nazism.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them were totalitarian regimes, and actually, anti-LGBT legislation was a feature of both of these regimes.
Yeah. And how did that come about? Because as you said, the fascist and the communist regimes were, somewhat rivals at that time. And so, how did that come about? Who did it? Was there any sort of setting? Who did it first, or who gave the idea to whom?
No, I don't. There is no information about that. It
Okay.
was. It's just about the fact that non-heterosexual relationships were viewed as perversion.
Yeah.
And this is and has been heavily influenced throughout history by religious fundamentalism.
Yeah. So you mentioned 1937.
Yes.
So what happened? You said
In
that
ni-
it went from then on to
in 1937, it was that's when the Romanian Penal Code first criminalized homosexuality,
and
and
as I understand,
it banned
yeah.
public homosexuality
Uh huh.
only in Article 431. So
Okay.
acts of I quote acts of sexual inversion committed between men or between women if provoking public scandal. That was the
Yeah.
wording in the penal code.
Okay. And then we go from 37 through 57, and then
Yeah, and in
to
57, the public scandal reference was removed.
uh huh.
So any consenting sexual intercourse between people of the same sex were penalized.
Uh huh. Okay. And
And
then
and back in that time, there was absolutely no reference to gender identity or anything else like
of
this.
course not. No, no.
And it was if people had the same biological gender, regardless of how they felt, because no one was interested in inner feelings of individuals.
Of course not. Yeah, especially back in the day.
Yeah,
So going then from this wording to 68, when it was like
yeah. It was revised. The penal code was revised again, and it introduced this Article 200 that I was reading from. I was quoting
okay.
previously.
And how did that si- that change in 1968 affect the rest of the Ceausescu regime when it comes to this issue?
Well, the ideology of the Ceausescu regime felt that homosexuality was not productive for communism. So communism needed hero mothers. They needed a strong demographic leap. They wanted to grow the population of the country, and to build on this notion of fertility, of productivity, both in the people, as in growing in numbers,
Yeah,
as well as in the economy.
of course, yeah.
So based on this ideology,
Yeah, we got this idea
they
then,
argued
which then
against.
lasted, throughout the remaining years of
Yes, yes,
Ceausescu.
yes. Especially in the Ceausescu's regime was very. We felt it really hardening, especially in the late 80s, because We didn't have free movement. We didn't have free expression. We didn't have freedom
Pretty much
to
anything.
leave the country. We had power outages. We had 2 hours of television per day.
Yeah, and your lovely Securitate.
Yeah, and we had a lot of the Securitate, exactly.
Yeah, and so Ceausescu fell. Was it 89? 89 was it?
Yeah, he was killed on Christmas Day in '89. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. Could you walk us through the 90s? The what when it comes to LGBT plus rights, the immediate aftermath, as well as the decade following Ceausescu's fall.
Well, even after 1990, when Romania started to transition from communism to
What it
capitalism
is now.
to democracy to what it is now, actually,
Yeah.
it's some political analysts still assert that we are in a certain transitional period.
That's subject to interpretation.
Yeah, of course. And I'm not very versed into politics, so I won't be
Yeah,
commenting
and
on
I
that issue.
think and I think we in this context we should probably keep out of politics.
Exactly. Uh, and since the Article 200 was still in effect for several years.
In the 90s.
Yeah, in the 90s.
Okay.
There were a lot of abuses against members of the LGBT community.
Which is not really surprising. So,
yeah.
When was there what was the mindset of the general populace towards LGBT plus, as well as the Article 200?
Well, most people didn't like gay people, and
yeah,
because back then there wasn't even in the public mentality that there is a LGBT community.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't just awareness of this kind
no.
of people actually existing.
Yeah. So
would that be correct?
So people usually knew that they were gays and lesbians. So people who are attracted of the same sex and have intercourse. There was intercourse between people of the same sex, but there wasn't awareness about non-binary people, about transgenders, and so on.
Of course, yeah. It wasn't really talked about. I would assume it wasn't really talked publicly.
No.
Even in the 90s, because I would assume that back in the Ceausescu era, it wasn't talked at all. You had your Securitate, you had your everything. As you said, no freedom of expression, really. So I would assume there was no talk about queer people.
No.
So,
and there was a case that I was. Yep. Sorry.
Before you continue, there's Ina saying hello.
Hello, Ina.
And Susanna MC, very interesting, Arthur.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Susan Go, she said this a bit earlier. In USA, it used to be illegal for two of the same gender to merely dance together.
Yeah, when Stonewall didn't pay off, the cops, as per usual. Well, we know that what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about this with
And
Susan last week,
yeah, and 2 weeks
those
ago.
was it 2 weeks? Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Anyway, those I can't even remember my own streams. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Those watching who have no idea what I'm talking about, after this stream, go watch my stream about Stonewall riots and the legacy that the Stonewall riots left, and in the half a century
And the
of
link is
the
in the
Stonewall
description.
riots. I think it's not in the description, but
Not yet, but it will be by the
Yeah,
time
yeah,
people will be
I'll-
watching this in rerun.
yeah, by the time people will be watching the replay, there will be the link down in the description. And Susan, oh, I feel so loved. But hey, Susan,
And you are loved, Susan.
Anyway, back
Our
to subject.
our heart is locked no more.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, we were talking about the article 200 and what it as we discussed already. You didn't really have freedom of speech back in the day. Especially, we talked about this in the green room as well before going live. So there wasn't a freedom of speech for the general populace.
And there was
yeah, go on.
there was a story that really went it received international attention, even by organizations such as Amnesty International. It's the story of Mariana Cetiner,
Okay.
and he was actually the last person in Romania who was jailed for her sexual orientation. She was
When was this?
This was in. So she was freed as late as 1998. So 2 years after Article 200 was revoked.
How's that possible? I mean, how can someone be jailed while the crime they committed was no longer a crime?
Because it took a lot of time for the decriminalization to be put into effect.
Ah, okay. So now we get coming closer to this 1998 when homosexuality was decriminalized.
No, it was in 1996 when it was decriminalized.
1996. Yes, sorry. Could you walk us through the somewhat accurately, based on what you know and what you've been reading prior to the stream, what caused this sort of shift towards overthrowing this Article 200? Sorry.
Well, it was the international pressure against and a higher awareness of the necessity that LGBT plus people should gain rights as comparable to heterosexuals.
Right, and so did this sort of, how should I put this, train of events or line of events, how did this affect the attitudes and how the LGBT plus people were viewed by and talked about by the general populace?
Yes, but it was really really progressive, and it started out slow. A survey conducted in 1993 reveals that 85% of the people surveyed considered homosexuality reproachable.
Okay, and have there been such surveys since?
Um,
or, or at least those that were available as of at the time of filming.
well, now I didn't find any new polls because
It hasn't been done
the
since.
attitude towards LGBT plus people in the present is much more according to a Western view of equality
When so going
and
to
non-discrimination.
yeah going towards the turn of millennia, um, we had the Article 200 was thrown out the window in
Yeah,
'96, and this first imprisoned gay person was freed in what '98 was it?
98. Yeah, the last
Yeah,
the last
yeah, the last one. Yeah.
yeah.
So uh, can we? What has
So
the?
let me walk you through a
Okay,
bit because
okay. Walk me
I
through.
forgot to
Yeah, walk us through.
mention one thing because in 1994 the Constitutional Court declared that the laws against homosexuality are against human rights, and they
Yeah.
decreed them non-constitutional.
Okay. How
But
did this come about?
uh, well, it was
Was there an international pressure,
it
national
was
pressure?
it definitely must have been both national and international pressure
Okay.
to come this because the first Romanian organization to advocate for LGBT rights, except Romania, uh, was incorporated in 1996.
Okay, so that was around the time
Yeah,
of the Article 2000
yeah.
thrown together.
It was the first organization nationwide, which is a member of the International Lesbian and Gay Association, and that
The
was
ILGA.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So then we come to the turn of millennia.
But still, even if it was decriminalized in November 1996, uh, the bars and clubs and media owned by the LGBTQ community were banned. Were still banned.
Uh, what was the logic behind that?
Um, because there was a certain reluctantness in decriminalizing homosexual relationships because of the faith and the national heritage of the Romanian people, influenced, of course, by religionism. That homosexuals are a threat to the traditional family, so husband, wife, children, and the so-called traditional Romanian way of life.
Yeah,
Because let's face it, the Romanian people are almost 90% Orthodox. So
Eastern Orthodox.
Eastern Orthodox Christians, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Orthodoxy still views homosexuality in a negative light.
Which I'm not surprised about that, and we have a small percentage of Eastern Orthodox people in Finland due to history, and then I won't go into the hypocrisy of that statement. I could go on a rant about that, but that's not the point of this
Of the
stream. The
stream.
hypocrisy. Anyway, this was in the turn of millennia. Uh,
and yeah, the pressure that caused, that caused the Article 200 to be first revised and then completely thrown over in 2001 was the Council of Europe and certain organizations that fight for human rights. For example, the Romanian Institute for Human Rights, Association for Defending Human Rights in Romania, the Helsinki Committee.
Yay, Finland mentioned.
Yeah.
Carry on.
The League for Defending Human Rights, Amnesty International, and ILGA.
Okay.
So all these organizations put pressure on the government in 1996 to decriminalize homosexuality.
Okay, and this was 2001. So...
No, this was 1996.
1996, but what happened in 01?
In 01, the whole Article 200 was cancelled.
Okay.
So the article was still there in the penal code, but it was... I think it wasn't... so it wasn't actually... So LGBT people could legally...
be themselves publicly without without being penalized for causing a scandal.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Romania had to remove Article 200 from the penal code to respect the political criteria of Copenhagen to be part of the EU, because they had to respect and to protect the rights of minorities.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Article 200 was abolished completely in 01.
In 01,
so, yeah. So could you walk us through bit by bit, of how they, for example, from 01 to 2010, maybe just what happened between 01 and 2010 in this regard in Romania?
So as of 01, the so I said it was abrogated, but
yes.
Only in 2002 was the age of consent put in at equal for both heterosexual and homosexual acts.
Okay. How much was the difference, and what is what is it as of right now?
For gays and lesbians, it was 18. For heterosexuals, it was 15.
Okay.
So currently it's 15 for both. Yeah.
Okay. How did this come about? This change? Was it sort of a remnants? Remnants of Article 200 that was abolished.
Yeah, probably it was, and because it was still considered a somewhat, probably, how should I put it? It wasn't perceived as equally normal as heterosexual intercourse.
Yeah,
and probably.
I can, in a historical context, on what it has been or what it was back in the day, some decades ago in Finland and many other countries as well. The age of consent was different for homosexual and heterosexual intercourse, which is quite, don't get why, but that's how it was. Anyway, from then on.
And
You were saying?
starting 2000, there is a law in Romania that does not allow discrimination based on sexual orientation.
Okay.
And that law uh, gives protection to LGBT plus people in finding work, getting access to goods and services, accommodation, education, medical assistance, equality
Etc.
in justice and public services and social security. And
Okay.
and
And
this law is, of course, one of the strongest laws in the European Union, and it was applied by the National Council for Combating Discrimination in 2004,
okay.
when the national air company Tarom refused to offer Valentine's Day perks to homosexual couples,
Yeah,
and
which is kind.
Tarom was sued for discrimination, and it was fined based on the non-discrimination laws.
Okay, that's quite kind of interesting that in such a short time you went from having the Article 200 to then having uh, an airline fine. I don't know how much, but I would assume quite a bit for discriminating against gay people.
Hmm.
That's quite a leap in a short time. How did that come about?
I really
You don't
don't
know?
know the story. Don't know the story behind it. I only found these facts. It is,
Okay,
and
yeah.
because it's really interesting to see how all this progressed over
Okay.
time.
And so going then towards 2010, how would you describe the latter half of 20 of the 2000 decade in this context?
Well, it's let me. So in 1 second, it was.
But Arthur, have you not done your homework?
I've not
Yes,
done
you
all
have.
my
Come on,
home.
but just teasing you.
Yeah, because I have a lot of documents here, and I'm trying
Oh, so
to
you have done your homework, but just
put
can't find it.
put some order here, because
We shall have order.
in the classroom.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll take a comment. Susan Brewer is saying, fascinating conversation, thumbs up. And please, while Arthur is looking for his missing homework, please go and like and subscribe. Uh, Actually, right before the stream, I checked the statistics for my channel. Only 33.3% of my viewers have subscribed, are subscribers. So, please, during or after this live stream, please like and subscribe.
So,
Have
for
you found
example,
your homework?
yeah, I'm trying to get all these
Yeah, we have.
bits and pieces together. So, for example, one of the most important events that yeah, Ding is really
No,
here
it
in
was
my.
no, it was his cat.
No, because
Anyway, go on. Please
my
carry
cat
on.
doesn't eat paper. She just scratches it around, and I get papers like this after a.
Oh my.
Okay. Anyway, so for
Side,
example,
side note.
the first edition of the Bucharest Pride Festival was held in 2004.
Okay.
And it has been held annually since.
And what has the reception been like for the Bucharest Pride event
Uh,
within, say, the general populace, and as well as the general populace and the national administration and such?
so, for example, one member of the parliament said like this. Yeah, so it was really well received back then. And he said, generally, we are a more conservative people, but we should adapt and realize that there are no other barriers in this area than those imposed by the good common sense. Life chooses, and who is for is for, and who is not, he has the right to abstain himself. Personally, I reached an age where nothing seems curious, but I reserve my right to express myself. Homosexuals exist in all social layers of the society, starting from poor people up to politicians and VIPs. I don't know whether I can consider it a disease, but the population doesn't have always, in general, enough tolerance towards this disease. So back then, there was still sort of a skewed mentality of what it meant to be LGBT.
Get it from this one, yeah. But even though there was such a, I could hear certain degree of homophobia, from behind these comments.
Yes.
However, what I find really curious is that regardless of this MP's own personal
it was his own personal
own personal incredulity and own homophobia, this MP went on to say this. It's kind of really curious as to such statements.
Yeah,
such statements would actually happen.
These statements show how homophobic Romanians as a nation were back then.
Yeah, and it kind of been
because
easy.
Actually it was the first time that the idea of the festival was, as the CEO of Accept put it, to offer a certain transparency of the gay community in Romania.
Yeah, and
the general public was not fully aware of what it meant to be part of the LGBTQ community.
Which, at that point in time, I'm quite frankly, I'm not all that surprised. But hey, we have a comment from Susan. I have a dumb question. Just what exactly is homophobia?
So Susan, phobia is the Greek word for fear. But in this word, phobia means a state of rejectfulness towards LGBT people.
Yes, and more specifically, gay people.
Gay and lesbians,
gays and lesbians. Then there's transphobia. It's basically attach a prefix of pretty much anything to phobia, and you'll get a fear of something. Arachnophobia, you get
fear of spiders,
fear of spiders, etc. That's how it goes. Anyway, now we get through '04 and the Bucharest Pride events starting from it. I would assume it's still organized every year, except for 2020. There's a culture of cancellation for this year. Arthur, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, it
Yes.
was my button here on my disk got accidentally muted. So yeah, it was called Gay Fest until 2013, and then to make it more politically correct towards all queer people, it was renamed to Bucharest Pride.
Okay. So it's been going on for 16 years, except for this year.
For this year.
Yeah,
And I don't see any record of last year's editions.
Anyway, because this year we've had this when it comes to all kinds of events. There's been this.
But yeah, we
culture of cancellation.
we had it last year as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay. Now there's
so
a culture of
16 years of, and
Yeah,
last
16
year
consecutive.
10,000 were part in the event.
That's okay. That's good. And we last year we had 110,000 in Helsinki.
Oh, sweet.
No. Anyway, now that we are past the first Bucharest Pride event, and then there's slightly homophobic and incredulous comments from this MP.
Mm-hmm.
How did things develop from there?
Yeah. So LGBT people were pretty much integrated into general society, and they started receiving actually the same rights.
Okay. And I think when we talked off camera earlier today, or was it yesterday? You mentioned year 2011, I think 2010 or 2011. Regarding
Yes,
this.
I meant, yeah, because I was looking into transgender people, and
Okay.
and I found a newspaper article about people who went through the sex reassignment.
Gender reassignment process.
Yeah, and there was a doctor who still viewed transsexuality as pathological, unfortunately.
Just a point of view is transsexuality is talked about in this context as a medical term, not a derogative term. It's a medical term. In the ICD-10 diagnostic criteria, F64.0 means a transsexual. So I've been diagnosed with that. So basically, in medical terms, I'm transsexual. So please don't get offended. It's not, but we try to keep it politically correct in this stream.
Thank you for making this observation and clarifying it with our viewers.
Yes, because transsexual is viewed by many as a offensive and or derogatory term, but in this context, it's purely as a medical term, which it still is. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, because in Romania in 1995 there was the first case of a man having a sex reassignment surgery.
Yes.
And he after he changed his biological gender.
Yeah,
Then
pronouns
he
from he to she
Yeah,
and such.
yeah,
When
and then
she tra-
she was legally allowed to change her name, and she was then recognized as a female.
And was there at the time, was there any specific legislation that would sort of I don't know, maybe control
No,
if you get it?
no. It was legal to do uh, a surgical sex change,
Yeah.
and it still is.
But
And
is there at the time, as of right now, is there a one cohesive piece of legislation that would define
no,
as to who does it, when
no,
it does, which order?
no,
Okay,
absolutely not.
there isn't one. Yeah, because that's kind of, it seems a bit weird to me because uh, in those countries that I of which I'm familiar of in this regard, they all have a a cohesive uh, package of legislation and these instructions from the Minister of Health or the Ministry of Health, as we do it here. We
Hmm.
Finland has what is just in common language is referred to trans law, and
Hmm.
then what came with it, the package that came from the Ministry of Health.
No,
And this
there
came
isn't
out
any.
in 2000. This came in 2002.
Hmm. I'm not aware of any here. I've done some digging, and
There doesn't seem to be one.
no, no.
Okay, has there is we went through the issue or the sort of package of things when it comes to discrimination, anti-discrimination legislation
Yeah,
when it comes to homosexual. Is
I
there
could,
does this
I could do a screen share to.
okay?
I hope it's the.
Off you go. Shall I add?
Yes. So we have here a summary according to a well-documented Wikipedia article
Okay, there
about
we go.
what.
We have it on the screen.
Yeah. So as we have seen, so same-sex sexual activity is legal since 1996, equal age of consent since 2002, and anti-discrimination laws are in place starting 2000, and in all areas since 2006. Same-sex families are really, really discouraged in
Okay.
in the general Romanian population, and there has even been a referendum uh, 2 years ago, yeah, in 2018, but it failed because of insufficient turnout.
Okay.
And I will be talking a bit about that as well.
Shall I take
LGBT,
the screen share off?
yeah, because our viewers have
To
had,
see our lovely faces.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, LGBT people are allowed to serve in military. They are
I didn't.
They have
I
the
don't
rights
think
to
that
change
included
their.
trans people. That was just gay, lesbian, bi. Does that include trans
There,
people?
there is no legal recognition of transgenderness in Romania.
Ah, well, that would explain. That would explain plenty.
So that's
Which is quite a shame.
yeah, that's really one of the main points missing.
Yeah, from current with when it comes to uh, you know, in this context or in this way, trans people have zero rights in Romania.
Unfortunately,
Yes,
because so at least as they aren't recognized as trans people. So
but
they are either male or female.
but not as trans. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Which is kind of
So
it.
it's actually so your gender is actually what's it's stated on your birth certificate or on your ID card.
Yeah, and first I'll take a few comments from
Please do.
yeah, Lika Fox. Hello, and
It's
she says,
Leisha. It's
"Wow."
Leisha. It's Leisha. It's pronounced Leisha.
I think we have had feedback from that. That is not. Yeah, it's Lika. Okay, moving on.
Or Laika. Ah,
Yeah, Lika.
Laika. Ah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, like a dog.
L-
Like a dog. Yeah. Any, anyway, in referral to the trans people having no recognition by the state, that's astonishing. I didn't know, but I suppose trans rights are still developing in many
In many
places.
places, yeah.
Dot dot dot.
Well, hopefully, because yeah, uh, in this 21st century, we should give freedom to everyone and not discriminate against any on based on gender identity or sexual
Exactly.
orientation.
I completely. I couldn't agree more. Um, because in this day and age, it's weird. It's surreal to think that a country that is a member of the European Union still doesn't recognize in officially in their legislation they don't um, officially recognize trans people. It's quite astonishing, really, because there are so many countries that are really backwards. Not just not just Europe, but elsewhere that are really backwards, but they still recognize. Uh,
And for example, let me talk about a thing that really was pretty shocking.
okay.
In Romania, the general public has shown reluctantness in allowing LGBT couples to adopt children,
Okay.
and they define the family as having mother, father, and children.
Yeah.
This is the so-called traditional family.
We have all heard about.
And unfortunately, there are cases where in all these traditional families, children are not cared for properly.
Yeah.
There are victims of domestic violence, physical abuse, psychological abuse, and unfortunately, in many places, this is being ignored by the authorities, or it's not considered heavily enough.
Yeah. And this is this is just another another odd oddity, really. I mean, because it's the traditional family and such, but it's in many ways another thing that is just backwards. Um, we, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in more diverse families, but the fact that quote unquote traditional families in Romania and such are sort of more protected from this. Uh, with as opposed to the possibility for same-sex couples to uh, adopt, or for lesbian couples to go into fertility clinics.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to take Licia's comments. So hang on, this is not it. But there are probably a lot of children waiting to be adopted that could be accepted into same-sex families.
Yeah, this is a
As
crime
a
on several levels.
Yeah, it is, because these children, suffer because they are not allowed to go to a same-sex couples to say they aren't allowed to go to same-sex couples because they are not allowed to be adopted by same-sex couples. With regards to the previous talk about transgender not being legally recognized in Romania, Lika is asking,
No,
so is it impossible to change your gender designation or your ID?
it is after you've been through a surgical gender reassignment. So
Okay.
that's probably the only way. I mean, you you can't go and say, well, I'm a trans woman, but I have my male genitals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have one comment. Same-sex couples facing problems are unlikely. She corrected. Seek
To seek
help.
help.
If they have problems when they are not
Consider normal.
considered normal, or and quote unquote normal.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have another. Yeah, children suffer by waiting in limbo, and same-sex families suffer by being discriminated against. Who benefits here?
Absolutely
You
no
know,
one.
no
Absolutely
one,
no one.
no one at all. And we had comment from Susan Brewer. To me, a family is any group who love and support
Both
and
and
care for
care for
one
one
another,
another. Like
like
this
this
one.
one. Yeah.
Exactly. So we
And
here are a family, and
anyway,
even if we're
because
not related
even
by blood, we are related by openness, related by our feelings towards one another.
yeah, I mean, we are from different countries, man.
Yeah,
You live in Romania, where officially I'm not even I wouldn't be recognized by the state in Romania, and yet here we are. Yet here I am. Yet here I am with a Romanian dude.
yeah.
Anyway, now that we've come to modern times, uh, now that we know what kind of national background you're from, how
Yeah.
do you come about uh, this? How should I put this? Open, accepting, etc., and showed up and came on tonight. How did that come about?
Well, because I guess openness is one of the consequences of of being intelligent, of being curious, and being someone who likes to do objective research.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, I also have friends who are part of the LGBT community here locally. And
Okay, yeah. How does that come about? You know, you're how old are you?
I'm 36.
Yeah. How does so in your local area?
Yeah.
How would you see the situation in this regard as of August 2020?
Well, usually the uh, I don't know, the mostly the young people are and those who live in urban areas are more open towards gender and sexual diversity, and we don't discriminate against queer people.
Yeah, which is quite fascinating because as I'm 33 right
Yeah.
now, and there are, as you can probably guess, Finland has been a bit more uh, progressive
Yeah.
in many regards in past decades. Um, we hang on. We have a comment, but I'll have to wait a bit. There's a slight delay to get the side chat. I can see your comment, Lisha, but I'll take it in a moment. It takes a moment to get for me to get it on the stream studio. Um, Anywho, yeah, we as I mentioned previously, um, we uh, homosexuality was decriminalized in Finland in 1971. Uh-huh. Although we had a remnants um, of that law
Hmm.
or that part in the criminal code, which was in effect until 1999, which prohibited urging into homosexual acts.
Hmm.
Uh, it wasn't really anything serious, but basically you could get arrested for it. But the first Pride events were some of the early activism was going to public places with a handwritten sign. I urge to homosexuality, and basically because it was criminal, the cops had to act on it, but they didn't really want to. We had and homosexuality was removed from the diagnostic criteria, the list of diagnostic criteria in 1981.
Hmm.
Actually, there's a national LGBT plus organization called SETA, um, which originally stood for sexual equality, and back in 81, uh, a woman was the chair of said organization when when homosexuality was removed from being so that it was no more an illness, and this woman became our president, first female president, and during her time of presidency, we got the civil partnership and the trans law into effect in '02 and '03 respectively. So we've
Mhm.
had these
Much earlier than
much earlier,
it's.
yes, yeah, and we got the same, and we got the same-sex marriage, which replaced the civil partnership in 2017.
Unfortunately, civil partnerships aren't are very unlikely to be legalized too soon.
Yeah,
There
uh,
was discussion on this topic high up there in Bucharest, but there is still much opposition.
yeah, I would assume so, with that kind of background. So the comment was, so there's social openness, but still federal marginalization of trans people, and you said yes. Uh, no legal recognition for non-binary either. But
Yeah, social acceptance
Lika,
is at least,
yeah,
or it should be,
a
because
precursor to legislative
legislative change.
change. Thank you, Arthur. Anyway, I mean, it often is. It not just it. I don't wanna go too much off topic, but in all kinds of huge changes, there's been a social movement has been a
You know,
precursor
back
to
when back when
move.
when there was the revolution in that ended up killing Ceausescu, there was a saying: "Azi în Timișoara, mâine în toată țara." So
Okay.
today in Timișoara, where the social uprising started, that went nationally
Yeah.
after, and tomorrow in the whole country. So that's the.
Which is kind of true. I mean, if it when it when, we'll go back to this LGBT plus stuff. I mean, if there wasn't social acceptance
There couldn't have been.
in
Yeah,
prior years, we could not have had these changes in,
legally.
say, these legal changes in Finland as well as Romania, and I believe that there is a bright future in this regard for Romania,
As well.
even though it's still lagging behind when compared to many countries.
But it still has to, there has to come a change in mentality, and
Exactly.
for people to let go the chains of fundamentalism,
Exactly.
because
Whatever the fundamentalism may be, be
yeah,
it
because
religious, political, you pick it.
that's why I said in general,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. In
referring
general, yeah,
to fundamentalism in general, because uh you know I guess most peoples have this idea of their ethnic heritage,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
and sometimes this part of fundamentalism that blocks the way to openness and acceptance to diversity is part of those core values that have been passed on from generations.
and there
And
is a
and that's why it's really on the psychological level, it's really hard to realize when such values go against more normal and more up-to-date values.
exactly so, and we have. I think in regards to this, we have a comment here from Susanna saying chains of fundamentalism need to be abandoned. Well put. So, and I think that is true. That is very much true. And
Yes, both Lily and Lana Wachowski, yeah, they both have come out
yeah,
as
off
trans
topic.
women.
Yeah, and there's Lika googled it. Googled it. Wachowski brothers. it looks they might be trans, yes. And another.
Yeah, they are now called the Wachowskis,
Yeah, and
since they
there's.
have both come out as trans women.
Yeah. Susanna says ethnic heritage as an excuse for anti-gay attitudes is common BS.
True.
I wouldn't. Yeah, sort of using brothers. Yeah, that no matter because
Yeah.
they at the time
Well,
time they were known as the
Wachowski
brothers.
brothers. Yeah, back when the first three parts of the Matrix trilogy came out. But
Yeah.
next year we are about to witness the fourth installment of the Matrix franchise. With
No paid content.
it's not paid.
Yeah, but just for Google, just the YouTube algorithm, and
Okay.
those watching replay. She said, Lisha's saying, yeah, I just went with Google results. My bad. But yeah, I'd like to go a bit back to this comments. Chains of fundamentalism need to be abandoned. Well put. I mean, there are many ways of fundamentalism, whether it be political or religious or otherwise.
And in Romania,
we've seen it so many times.
In Romania, the influence of religion on the overall politics and administration is still very, very obvious, very evident.
Yeah, it's not just religious, man.
But
it goes down. It goes down so many levels.
It's driven by religionism. It's
which is quite a shame because it's always I don't want to bash religion, because it's to no avail, man. But it's all too often religion, and especially religious fundamentalism, is precursor to LGBT plus phobia. And in this case, you said 90 something percent of Romanians are Eastern Orthodox.
I said almost 90, 88.
Yeah, almost 90. Yeah, and we know what that church, or that group of churches actually thinks of Conchita Wurst.
Yeah.
So there we go. I mean, and we've had a few call outs from the Finnish Eastern Orthodox Church in this regard, especially at the time of Conchita Wurst winning the Eurovision contest. How was it perceived in Romania when Conchita Wurst won the Eurovision? The Eastern Orthodox said that, yeah.
It was the reception was mixed. Well, on one part, those who were open enough to diversity had nothing against it, but more fundamentalist people were shocked, and it was against the nature, that's how they call it.
Against the nature,
yeah.
And there's
Împotriva firii, as they say in Romania.
There's been a few others, Conchita Wurst, and then Verka Serduchka, to name a few of these drag, and clearly LGBT plus characters who have become famous through the Eurovision contest.
But we also had, for example, on one of the most well-known Romanian commercial national TV stations, I'm talking about Pro TV, they had they aired a Romanian version of the TV show Four Weddings. I don't know whether you're familiar with that format.
Say again. What?
Four Weddings.
I'm familiar with the concept, but I've never. We don't. I don't think we've ever had it in Finland, but I know the concept.
Yeah, let me.
I don't
check.
want copyright issues.
Well, if we're talking about it, it's not a copyright issue.
No, but if you're digging up.
I'm not showing any footage or anything, but I wanted to check whether the show aired in Finland. Yeah, it aired on Nelonen in 2011.
Oh yeah, it's been almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
So no wonder
or how do you pronounce? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Neljät.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the show.
Yeah. Anyway, you in the Romanian version, you had a queer person there.
Yeah, we had one of the Four Weddings aired in one of the episodes was a gay wedding.
Okay. That's kind of surprising. Really.
So there is openness.
At least
yeah.
At least an increasing amount of
exactly
of openness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just referral to.
And this was aired in 2013.
Oh, it's been what, 7 years now?
7 years, yeah.
7 years, yeah. In regards to the previous, when you were referring to being unnatural, some people saying it's unnatural and yada yada. That's Lisha saying it's funny making the nature argument, given that some animals can change their sex spontaneously midlife, and there are gay king penguins, etc.
Wow.
Or emperor penguins, whatever it's in English.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting that non-human animals have so diverse features and
yeah, and as I understand it, many other great apes have been documented to have homosexual behavior. So it's not just limited to being unnatural, because it's not just Romania that gives you all that BS about
nature. It's because, for example, the church in Greece or in Russia is as
the Greek Orthodox Church and the Russian Eastern Orthodox. It's the same BS.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
The Finnish Lutheran Church is still wrestling about whether or not the Finnish Lutheran priests, whether it's a matter of consciousness.
Yeah.
Whether or not, but for now they don't have a line. So basically, it's up to the bishop's office if they
are allowed to.
Yeah, and so basically because there have been Finnish Lutheran churches, priests who have wedded same-sex couples, and they've had a various degree of penal punishments from the bishop's office.
Because of course, Orthodox priests don't wed same-sex couples. This couple who had their wedding shown in the TV show had a female minister coming from Ireland or something like that, if I remember well.
Yeah, and considering that Irish is predominantly Catholic, where
this wasn't. She was some evangelical, non-denominational church. I don't know, something Methodist or.
Anyway, we are quite a bit off topic.
Yeah.
But as of right now, we've been going into a tangent. But I think regarding to homosexuality being natural, for tonight, the last comment for tonight comes from Susan. I have two neutered male cats who often become amorous in quite a sexual way.
Yeah.
Well, there we are.
Meow.
But
Meow.
hey, my channel is not monetized, so there's no risk of getting demonetized with this. Anyway, we have now gone with Arthur from the LGBT rights in Romania from 1937 all the way to 2020. How do you feel, Arthur?
I feel great. I feel great because it's been a lovely show. It's been great to talk to you, and it was great to have so wonderful viewers joining in with us and giving their great comments, and it's really fun to be here in all this company.
Yeah, it's really humbling. So it's time to. I already promised not to that it was the last comment, but I'll just have to take this one. Love you both big time. We love you too, Susan. And great to join you, everyone. Thank you, Heidi and Arthur. Now,
You're very welcome.
before we leave you and love you, I would like to remind you that there are links down in the description box. There's a link to Arthur's YouTube channel. He makes really, really interesting content. Please go like and subscribe, and there will in the description box down below there is also my channel email address, as well as links to two Discord servers that I run, Hades Corner channel Discord server, as well as LGBT plus safe space server, which I run. Wonderful people, safe places, and I can promise my admins and myself will keep the environment safe. Now, I will see you next time. Please like, add, subscribe, and just tickle the notification bell. Bye.
And as